Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
We are excited as a family to make Tuscaloosa home, and I think that's one thing that we're really excited about. This program has laid the foundation. Now it's time for us to knock down the gates of Omaha, and we're going to do that here real soon.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Filling in for Gary Harris. I'm not Gary Harris. I'm Stu McCann. Rodney Orr is Rodney Orr. He's the mainstay, the new guy. He's going to be leading the way tonight. But that was new Alabama head men's baseball coach. I'm already in Gary's shadow. So Rob Vaughn. Earlier today, getting introduced at his new position. We'll hear more from Vaughn and get into that discussion in just a second. But first, we have to wrap up the baseball season, how it all finished up last weekend in the Winston-Salem Super Regional. Winston-Salem, game one, it goes a battle. It's 5-4. Wake Forest gets the win. There were maybe some questionable calls. There was one check swing that was a no call, and then maybe the next pitch, a home run that gave Wake Forest the lead. But in the end, it was 5-4. Wake Forest wins. Game two was a very different story. Wake Forest bats were leaving the yard. The balls were on their way out. Offensively, Wake Forest hits 9 home runs in Game 2 of the Super Regional and wins 22-5, sweeping Alabama and sending them out, keeping them from reaching Omaha, as Wake Forest is able to punch their ticket. First time since 1955. For the Crimson Tide, their season comes to an end. Definitely not a disappointing season. Maybe the way it ended, the score 22-5, but that is very misleading because you're talking about a team that went far beyond what we believed it was going to be, say, at the beginning or end of April, when the Brad Bohannon firing came along and the controversy that surrounded that. I don't think anybody at that point in time could realistically say, hey, this team is going to be 2 wins from reaching the College World Series.
Pretty amazing, Stu. You're exactly right, 100% right. I think this team, the way they responded, the way the players responded, the way the coaching staff responded in terms of holding this team together, it really was a remarkable season for them to get where they did. And I think Coach Vaughn is right. The table is now set.
That's right. And you're talking about not only we'll get to the coaching staff in just a second, but let's look at the players who are coming back, specifically the numbers. 13 players that are leaving, but this core that's coming back, the ones who played so big down the stretch, and 13-4 before the Super Regional. That's the record we're going to go with. Starting with that Vanderbilt series, Alabama baseball goes 13-4 to reach the Super Regional. You can't diminish that. No matter how the season ended, that record and what they were able to do and how they were playing, the confidence they were playing with, it was apparent.
Yeah, you know, when you look at it, Stu, again, they play high-quality competition in the SEC. The way they responded against Vanderbilt, as you mentioned, winning that series, and throughout the remainder part, the stretch of the season, the SEC tournament, I thought they showed well there, obviously, and then, of course, winning the regional here in Tuscaloosa. Look, I think it was a fantastic finish, and I think as you start to look forward, Alabama baseball looks like it has a really, really bright future.
That's right. That's something that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. No more looking forward to. The person who's looking forward to the most is the guy we're about to see right now on Coach Talk. Greg Byrne introduced Rob Vaughn earlier today, this afternoon, as the new Alabama head baseball coach. Vaughn spoke highly of the 2023 team and said he wants to build on the foundation that the program began this season, continuing that into the future.
So they've laid the foundation of the expectation of everybody that walks through these doors. And it's our job as a coaching staff to build on that, to not recreate, to look at the culture and say, hey, what's working? Because you don't do what those group of people just did without a strong culture, because culture matters. Culture matters when things aren't going well. And that group went through the fire and came out the other end and set records and rewrote the history book at Alabama. And that's exciting. I want them to be able to bring their kids back 20 years from now, after we've knocked down the gates of Omaha again, after we've done some of those things, and say, yeah, that started with my group.
The guy I think that deserves a lot of the credit about what Vaughn was talking about the way this team finished, is Jason Jackson, who is the interim head coach, and now he is going to stick around, be part of the staff as the associate head coach. So Jason Jackson's here, and you bring in a Power 5 coach with proven credentials, what Rob Vaughn was able to do at Maryland. This is best case scenario. I think when you're talking about a coaching search, able to keep the guy that some people wanted and bring in a guy who's already proven he can do it as a head coach, getting to some of those levels.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, he's a really bright, young coach. I think there's some people, I know on TiderInsider.com, a lot of people that follow baseball extremely closely kind of compare this a little bit to the Nate Oats hiring, a guy that's young, energetic, very enthusiastic, has a bit of a proven track record, won a couple of ACC titles. He's been very successful already in a very young career. Look, I don't think you could be more excited about the direction that I think this is moving right now. You mentioned, the continuity that you have with Jason Jackson. I think that's really, really big. No question about that. So, look, I'm excited about the future of Alabama baseball. And before we move forward, we talked about players returning. There's always a transfer portal. They can add some players. So I'm really looking forward to seeing not only how Coach Vaughn recruits, but how they use the portal.
I've heard of this comparison, and maybe you have to look at it in what it means, because it's a huge compliment. But I heard somebody compare this to what Auburn did with its head football coach. Last season, Cadillac Williams got a fire lit under the football team. They were playing with more spirit, obviously, after the firing of Brian Harsin. You keep him, Cadillac Williams is still there, and you bring in a guy like Hugh Freeze, who's a proven commodity, and you get to have both. You get the guy who's the spirit rah-rah guy and kind of has the pulse of the team, and you bring in someone who knows how to work with all the parts and build them over continuing 3, 4, 5 seasons and make them into the thing that you're going for.
No, I think that's really true when you look at, what you have now with Coach Vaughn, Coach Jackson, meshing them together, the familiarity that Coach Jackson has. I mean, I think he certainly is going to make the transition. Anytime you have a new coach, there's a transitional period. I think when you have someone that's been there like Coach Jackson has, I think it really is very helpful, very beneficial to the new coach.
All right, let's turn to recruiting, but basketball recruiting. On Monday, according to a report from Joe Timpton of On3 Sports, North Dakota State transfer Grant Nelson was expected to play his senior season at Alabama for Nate Oats. It was between Alabama and Arkansas. It was a close situation. Some said that Nelson kind of saw Alabama would give him a path to a starting position because of the recent front court loss of Charles Bediako. That was going to be the spot, and he could show what he did in his final season and get ready for the NBA draft, which he was in earlier, but then pulled his name out of the draft and continued on, wanted to have one more season that showed what he could do. The North Dakota State center can do it all on the court. Inside, outside, rebounding. He's 6'11", proven he can score and do all the things that you're looking for a big man to do. But we still have not gotten an official word. So, Rodney, what do you make of the report that's come out that he's leaning one way, and then maybe there wasn't any back? Nobody was taking any steps back, but it feels like maybe Nelson's family was hoping, hey, we wanted to be the ones. Mm-hmm. I've heard that Nelson's family has kind of thought you kind of stole our thunder by launching some of these Joe Timpton edits and things like that.
Possibly so. I think when you transfer, there's a lot of things involved. There's not just a public commitment. When you transfer from one school to the other, you've got academic transfer that you have to make sure it goes through the process. And I think that's probably a part of it in terms of before you make the announcement. And I think once everything is ironed out, I expect Grant Nelson to make the announcement. Right now, I've heard nothing different in terms of most people expect him to follow through and commit to Alabama. And like you said, I think it's a magnificent pickup. We sat here 3 or 4 weeks ago really wondering what's Alabama going to do to replace some of these guys, Clowney, Bediako, Brandon Miller. And then, to be able to have an opportunity to land a guy like Grant Nelson, who's got experience, he's got size. He can do it all, as you mentioned, play inside, play outside, all the different things. I think would be a tremendous pickup.
I love all the memes on social media, people talking about putting Grant Nelson and Sam Walters side by side, talking about all the different nicknames and all the different things that you're going to see from that. But Grant Nelson, there's a lot of hype around him. Do you expect him to come in and really be that guy in the front court that was going to be able to make the difference, maybe be the leading scorer, be that force inside? Is he that kind of player?
Well, I mean, obviously he's extremely talented. I mean, you look at him, he's athletic, he's got the height, he can shoot the three. I mean, it's amazing, his range. He can do it all. There's no question about that. But again, there's always an adjustment. There's always a transition for a player coming in. And but when you look at his talent and what he brings potentially, yeah, I think Alabama fans should be really excited to add him to the roster.
You just got to be a little patient, just a little bit more time, and then the official announcement. Just don't have faith. That's all it is. Have faith. Still to come on Tider Insider Television, Bryce Young gets an NFL promotion. We'll explain on that. And Alabama golfer Nick Dunlap is ready for his second shot at the U.S. Open. We will share some insight on his mindset next. Plus, coming up, we're going to take your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Go ahead, give us a call, send us an email, or contact us on social media. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV returns after the break. Welcome back to TITV, sponsored by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney, I'm Stu McCann, filling in for Gary Harris. A quick correction from the last thing we were talking about with Rob Vaughn and Maryland.
And I said ACC. Of course, Maryland formerly of the ACC. I think actually when Coach Vaughn originally got there as an assistant coach, he might have been part of the ACC. But, of course, it is the Big Ten. So, just to clarify, it's the Big Ten titles that he's won.
And it is 2013. I don't know when the switch came when they went to the Big Ten, but he started coaching at Maryland in 2013 as an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator. So I guess it's one of those technicality type things. Let's turn to golf. It's the U.S. Open week there in Los Angeles, and this guy, Nick Dunlap, is fired up to be in Southern California. Dunlap is in the field for the second consecutive year. He won the Columbus, Ohio qualifier earlier this month, 8 under 136. Now, he's one of the top golfers in the country. He finished his freshman season number 16 in the nation, according to Golf Week in the individual player rankings. He's a second-team Ping All-American. And I spoke with Alabama men's golf coach Jay Sewell earlier today. He's also out there in L.A. with Dunlap as they get ready for the play to start on Thursday. And the one thing I picked up from Sewell is they played a practice round yesterday. And today, not a practice round. They're going to play 9 holes, chipping and putting, because one thing that playing in the U.S. Open last year in Brookline, Massachusetts, he got too much in earlier in the week. He wanted to be like 100% fine-tuned into the entire course, and then by the time they actually played, he was a little burned out. He had played too much golf.
It's a strategy.
It's a strategy. Yeah. You have to build up as you get ready for the first round. L.A. Country Club North Course coming up this week. Nick Dunlap getting his work in today, pitching and putting. Another thing Coach Sewell said, so much more calm, so much more not wide-eyed, not looking around as he gets ready for the golf major. Last year, his second U.S. Open, that growth has certainly shown quite a bit. So can't wait to see what he's able to do coming up this coming Thursday in the first round of the U.S. Open. NFL. The Carolina Panthers have elevated Bryce Young to the #1 quarterback spot, a move head coach Frank Reich said last Thursday is the next step to him being the Week 1 starter. This was the plan all along. Young got more reps than any other QB, Andy Dalton, than in the first 2 weeks of voluntary offseason workouts, but last week was the first time Young was listed as the starter and the first time he began each drill with the first unit. Rodney, what do you make of that? It's kind of something that we expected. I don't know if we expected it this soon. Maybe when fall camp starts, that's when you kind of move them up. But in this case, Frank Reich said the players and the team probably made the decision where we respect Bryce enough. He's ready. He's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I guess it really depends on when the timing is right to make that call. And I assume they felt like it was now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you knew it was eventually coming. Barring anything unforeseen. But I really think, having guys around him that are veterans, Andy Dalton, you mentioned him, Frank Reich, a former quarterback himself, having that experience, those guys helping him kind of settle in, I think is really big for Bryce Young right now.
I think it's actually really big, like you said, Andy Dalton, no pushback really. There's no pushback because this is not anything that was unexpected. This is something that kind of, let's get Bryce ready because he is the future. Still to come on TITV, find out what Crimson Tide female athlete has just gotten a prestigious honor. And up next, we're welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. You see the information on the screen. Interact with Tider Insider TV right now. Go ahead, give us a call, send us your email, or contact us on social media. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV returns after the break. Montana Fouts has become the first Tide softball player to win the highly prestigious Honda Sport Award as a softball recipient. The award, presented by the Collegiate Women's Sports Awards, recognizes the top women athletes across 12 NCAA sanctioned sports. As a softball recipient, Fouts will now compete for the Collegiate Women Athlete of the Year in that coveted 2023 Honda Cup. The final award ceremony will be broadcast live on CBS Sports Network next week. Welcome back. Let's head out to the phone lines. BT in Tuscaloosa. BT, how are you?
Good, dude. Ronnie, how about you, Ronnie?
Doing well, BT.
I'm going to ask y'all something, okay? Well, I'm going to ask you, you think it'll take a couple of years for the new guy to get up to the championship? That's a question I got.
That's a great question, BT, and I don't think so. And even I think in his introductory press conference today, Rob Vaughn joked his first season at Maryland, they were, I believe, 25-34. That's not going to be viewed as okay at Alabama. This is not a team that is, we need to build up. I think Rob Vaughn was brought in here to get them that next step, to take them from where they are. They reached a Super Regional. Now they want to take that next step and get to Omaha.
Well, and I think Brad Bohannon's staff did a really good job of recruiting, a lot of outstanding evaluations. And I think we saw that as the season played out, that Alabama was better than people really thought. And I think the foundation, as he mentioned, is there. I think the coaching now is going to be top-notch. We really expect that. I mean, obviously, he's done a fantastic job. He's had a great track record. How long will it take to win an SEC championship and, make it to Omaha? I mean, again, time will tell. But I think the pieces are there, and they're not that far away.
All right. Phone lines are open, by the way, so give us a call. Ask recruiting questions. Ask Rodney anything you want. This is an Ask Rodney Anything You Want type segment. But first, let's get to an email. The email question of the day is brought to us by the KDM Services, serving your family like our family. Here's a question from Scott and Moody. Why is there so much focus on offering 2027 recruit quarterback Trent Seaborn out of Thompson High School? Is Alabama going to be the guy who jumps in there, or a team that jumps in there next? Thanks, Scott. And I think that what Scott is kind of hinting at, you had Auburn recently offer Trent Seaborn, Ole Miss, Maryland, a lot of teams have jumped in. But what is the hurry when a guy's a 2027 recruit? Is that something you're thinking the first person in there is going to be the one that he remembers the most? What do you, as a recruiting insider yourself, what is your take on that offer in 2027 guys 4 years in advance?
Yeah. Well, again, I think this is kind of the trend. I mean, when it's an outstanding young quarterback, a lot of schools make that decision to offer early, to get involved very quickly. And I think when you look at a school like Alabama, I think as Trent Seaborn continues to develop, again, he's only going into the 9th grade. He'll be a freshman in high school and did a fantastic job, incredible job as an 8th grader leading Thompson to that state championship. But there's plenty of time to make that offer. I think as he gets into camp, develops physically and all of those things, yes, I do expect Alabama to offer at some point.
I think it's just something that, from a skill standpoint, he's there as somebody who's in the 9th grade. But you don't know what the next 3 years holds. You don't know that development that either comes from being in the classroom or just naturally, if he's going to grow, how his body is going to grow into what we're going to see around 2027. That's unpredictable. That's the only thing that there is. We are going to go to break. More Tider Insider TV after this. Give us a call. Rodney Orr and Stu McCann will be right back. At the 2023 NCAA Track and Field National Championships in Austin, Texas this past weekend, the Crimson Tide had two take the top 2 spots in the 400-meter hurdles as the sophomore Chris Robinson won for the Crimson Tide, claiming the national title for the first place in a record fashion. And then Cord Long right behind him at 48.12 seconds. It's the school and faculty record, facility record. Also the fastest time for any college athlete in the 400-meter hurdles. He is Alabama's first national title winner in that 400-meter hurdles. Congratulations. Another email. We're going to go with an email. This one is from Mary in Northport. Why is Alabama going to South Florida this season? They're playing USF. Week 2, I believe. Week 3. Rodney, what's up with that?
Yeah, right after the Texas game.
Yep.
Look, the way this is set up, I think South Florida is going to come here for 2 games. Alabama goes down there for 1 game. So it's a 2-for-1 type deal. But to be able to go down there, you know how successful Alabama was going to Atlanta, playing in those neutral site games, was Atlanta, Dallas. I think this is in a way to be able to go down to Tampa, get exposure for the program there in the Tampa area in terms of that's a really fertile recruiting area. Alabama recruits that area quite a bit, so I think it's a great opportunity. But again, it is a 2-for-1 deal.
It's a business trip on more than one level.
Exactly.
More, and we'll be back to wrap it up right after this on a beautiful night in Tuscaloosa. More TITV. Stick around. Where did the time go? We're out of time. Thank you for tuning in to Tider Insider, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch the replay at 10:30 after the news at 10 o'clock and online at WVUA23.com. Thanks to Rodney Orr. I'm Stu McCann. Gary will be back next week. Have a great week.